Hello, my name is Hanif Helmi, and my student ID is 81114191009. I'm from the Constitutional Law major in the International Class 2019, and in this video, I will bring you my topics on the politics of law taught by Mr. Dani Muhtada, and I will present to you my paper regarding the politics of law in the Reformation era in the year 2001 to 2004 under the government of President Megawati Soekarnoputri. In our discussion, I will present to you the introduction and then the political configuration under the government of President Megawati Soekarnoputri, and then the products and the focus of legal development, such as the eradication of corruption, foreign policy, regional autonomy, election, stability and defense, and to close it all, I will present to you my conclusion on the government of President Megawati Soekarnoputri. Before everything, I will begin the presentation with my introduction. So, Indonesia as a state with centuries old of colonization was born and emerged in a very fragile ideas of freedom of expressions. Therefore, Indonesia has been plunged into the unending political dynamics, and these political shifts had determined the law throughout the history. As a result of fluctuating political dynamics, it is safe to say that Indonesia in the Old and New Order periods had characteristics of a newly independent state that was still ultra to semi-nationalist and had a single charismatic leader. As we know, President Sukarno and President Suharto became the single president in each era, both of whom leadership has similar maneuver of politics, which is authoritarianism. Thus, the orthodoxy in the legal system of the period became ingrained and created public discontent over the government. Every political action of the nation's leaders, we can underline how the political dynamics of our country are carried out under the influence of either democratic values as well as the principles of authoritarianism, both of which have colored Indonesia's political configuration during the course of its independence. The 1945 Constitution, as the basic constitution and spirit of the continuation of the life of Indonesian state, mandates democratic values in pursuing Indonesian governance, so that from the Indonesian government should carry out its functions while practicing and opening the taps as wide as possible to democracy and public participation. However, starting from that, we can see that the reality that occurs in the implementation of government in Indonesia and all its political details are not always in line with the principles of democracy enshrined in the 1945 Constitution. Several periods have misinterpreted democracy as a term that is used without meaning, thus emerging the terms liberal democracy, Pancasila democracy, guided democracy, and others which we cannot all value as fully democratic. The fall of President Suharto in 1998 demonstrated the power of the people, and from this phenomenon we can see that the development of democracy has matured the public and made the political law sector a tough field and will continue to change over time. So let's begin in the political configuration on the Reformation era. And as I have said, I will represent to you about the political configuration of the President Megawati Soekarnoputri government. So after the impeachment of President Wahid, Soekarnoputri was named by the parliament as the fifth president of Indonesia. This gave her and the PDIP party an opportunity to create a new political regime. As a political actor, President Megawati Soekarnoputri has previously been involved in the world of Indonesian politics, which was far from stable during the New Order until the beginning of the Reformation era. President Soekarnoputri also became a political actress who helped support the upheaval of Reformation in 1998. The fall of President Suharto then also became the beginning of her political career to penetrate deeper into the ranks of government in Indonesia. Since the end of the leadership of President B.J. Habibie, she had become a potential figure to take the leadership of the President of Indonesia. However, with the political climate and strategy that at the time was not friendly for her PDIP party, she finally lost and only got the vice president seat, accompanying President Abdurrahman Wahid from the PKB party. But the government of President Soekarnoputri managed to fend off this possibility by pursuing things that were previously delayed in the New Order period and trying to complete Reformation agendas. In relation to the three pillars of democratic qualifications, President Megawati Soekarnoputri did not have any much astray from the three pillars of democracy, which is the first one: the parliament and the representative system is fulfilled by an updated legislative election system. So there is no, so the parliament and the representative system is held with democratically, and it's done directly. And then in press freedom, also peppered with the necessity of declaring the Free Aceh movement of Orgam as a separatist group in the media, it does not have a really significant case in the stages of press freedom. This means that in her period, the press actually receives more freedom than the previous era, such as in the President Wahid and then President Habibie, and of course in very much a contrast from the President Suharto's reign. And then in the active role of the government, while government in the President Megawati Soekarnoputri has responsive style to the socio-political conditions of the community. This is shown by her way of taking course in the legislative products, so that there are very significant legal products that actually was created under the request and the public interest at the time. So as far as the facts regarding the formation of the law, which are not 100% tied to its political interest and the existence of public participation in its creation, it is suffice to state that the political configuration of President Soekarnoputri's government is in fact democratic. So we are going to move into the legal products of President Megawati Soekarnoputri. So the first one is eradication of corruptions. So in an effort to eradicate corruption, actually, the government of Indonesia has created some legal regulations, such as in the President B.J. Habibie has regulated in Law Number 31 of 1999 concerning the eradication of criminal acts of corruption, which was a significant change and became the law on the eradication of corruption, which was actually practiced. President Soekarnoputri also held the Reformation agenda, considering that she was one of the presidents who was still physically in touch with the impacts of the new order. The eradication of KKN, or corruption, collusion, and nepotism, is an underlying mandatory task, similar to how the B.J. Habibie government was required to do. The legal order experienced a firm starting point regarding to complete the creation of regulations to eradicate corruption in President Megawati's era. So there are two anti-corruption legal products stipulated in the government of President Soekarnoputri, which is namely Act Number 20 of 2001, which renews the Act Number 31 in /1999, and Act Number 30 of 2002 concerning the Corruption Eradication Commission. The law that mandates the establishment of the Corruption Eradication Commission, or KPK, which is effectively enforces all possible efforts to eradicate corruption in Indonesia. The second legal products that we could actually see in the era of President Soekarnoputri is actually the foreign policy. Indonesia's foreign relations in the era of President Soekarnoputri's administration experienced a significant expansion and succeeded in establishing fairly rapid diplomatic relations to various countries. Diplomatic relations with the United States, which were strained in the previous President Wahid era, can also be easily resolved and instead expand cooperation in the military, defense, and counter-terrorism sectors. Also of note is the military embargo in Indonesia that has been imposed by the United States over the previous decades ended in her era. President Soekarnoputri also visited some controversial states, which are, for example, here she is visiting the North Korea and meeting its leader at the time, President Kim Il-sung. She became also one of the figurehead that actually bridged over the South Korea and North Korea reunification process, which is still ongoing to this day. President Soekarno-Putri also visited the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, a former part of Indonesia which had separated earlier in 1999. The visit was controversial and was seen as both negative yet also positive. The efforts to warm relations between the two countries was seen as progressive steps in building peace between the both countries. Meanwhile, negatively, the visit was seen as somewhat insensitive and unsympathetic to the families of the TNI troops who were involved in the Saroja operation, which many died in the war. And then in the third legal product that actually we can see from President Soekarno-Putri's tenure is actually the regional autonomy. Well, it's like more likely it's the same, such as the eldest president previously ruled Indonesia before her. President Soekarno-Putri also seen that regional autonomy as a main aspect of democracy, and that the new order failed to offer that as aspect of democracy that should be done by President Suharto when he was still in the chair of the president. So President Soekarno-Putri took regional autonomy quite seriously. Well, this can be seen from the 10 acts that were issued within a period of 2 years, that is of 2002 into 2003, which regards regional expansion of the formation of new provinces, municipalities, and cities. Some of the regional expansion that we actually see is that President Soekarno-Putri created the province of the Kepulauan Riau. Although this is actually a follow-up response to the experience of centralizing power in the New Order era government, which did not want regional autonomy to seriously create a non-democratic feel and slow down opportunities for socio-cultural and economic growth at the regional level. But the expansion of regional autonomy may be easily formed as such as I have said that her reign actually created 10 different acts, 10 different law products that were issued within a period of 2 years just to take about regional expansion. But the decentralization of power has not been fully implemented. The challenge or threat of disintegration is one of the reasons why this has not been fully implemented in her term. For example, here I gave you the picture of the Gerakan Aceh Merdeka or Free Aceh movement, which is a separatist group that is growing in Aceh at the time. Actually, in her period, in her term, the GAM is actually at the optimal level of struggle. They actually do very much terror upon the public at the time in the province of Aceh. Therefore, it was also being heated up by the Gerakan Aceh Merdeka was actually also heated up by the success of the Republic of Timor-Leste at the time, which actually managed to break out from Indonesia as the 27th province of Indonesia in the year 1999 under the President B.J. Habibie. So the Free Aceh movement at the time became very rapidly active. And then after that, we are going to talk about the election. So as we know, President Soekarno-Putri was the last president who was not directly elected by the people. From a political point of view during that period, we can also see that with the dominant political power as the party of the incumbent government at the time, in this context, the Indonesian Democratic Party or the PDIP held the most of chair in the parliament. The Fourth Amendment to the 1945 Constitution announced by the Parliament in August 2002 leads President Soekarno-Putri to put aside the interests of her party, which is to maintain her seat and maintain the parliamentary composition at the time, as the major government party that that held the office. And then she succeeded the Fourth Amendment so that the 2000 presidential and vice presidential elections were held directly and democratically. Thus, the Fourth Amendment only mandates direct democratic elections to be applied to the presidential and vice presidential elections. With regard to the regional head election, the 1945 Constitution does not provide clear boundaries and descriptions regarding its implementations, only as a warning that it should be carried out democratically. President Soekarnoputri then also gave a clear new practical rules regarding direct regional head elections with Act Number 32 of 2004 concerning regional government. After the law on election, President Soekarnoputri also created law on stability and defense. President Soekarnoputri government faced many disintegrative challenges that threatened national unity and integrity. The Free Aceh Movement or GAM and the Free Papua Operation or OPM began to flare up during this period, not to mention the rampant terrorism cases throughout the country, for example, Bom Bali here. Many occurred as a result of President Soekarnoputri's lack of attention to the issue of national stability in the early half of her leadership. However, since the issuance of Perpu number 1 of 2002 and then Act number 15 of 2003 concerning the eradication of terrorism, we can see as a special concern that was born from the condition of society that increasingly felt insecure without spatial arrangement for rampant acts of terrorism. As one of the added values arising from Indonesia's foreign relations before with the United States and the Western countries with the alibi of eradicating terrorism in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, this approach was also carried out to maintain the emotional relationship between Indonesia and the Islamic countries, which were invaded by United States, including the Afghanistan and Iraq, which were labeled as the center of Al-Qaeda terrorism activities against the WTC or the Twin Towers in New York in 2001. So the stability and defense actually did not become the main focus of President Soekarnoputri in the early half of her term in office, but then after some serious cases of GAM and OPM, and then also some serious cases such as the Bom Bali 1 in Bali, President Soekarnoputri actually managed to created some law that actually talking and then regulating about the crime of terrorism and how the government of Indonesia are actually having intention to eradicate it. And as also I've actually said before, I actually bridge this one into the foreign policy. The warming of relationship between Indonesia and the United States also work side by side, also making it easier for President Soekarnoputri to create a stability and defense against terrorism. So, and this also was also done to be fairly emotionally taking care about the feeling of Afghanistan and Iraq. Also, at the time, we are knowing that the both countries were invaded by United States for their role in Al-Qaeda activity, so that the Indonesian government were able to create laws and create protection for Indonesian people against terrorism, but also maintain good relationship with the Islamic countries that were invaded by the United States. And then I'll close it in conclusion. The reign of President Megawati Soekarnoputri as the fifth president made her a figure who was among the early people in the development of the Reformation era in Indonesia. With a myriad of agendas that emerged from the fall of the authoritarian new order, President Soekarnoputri carried out quite a lot of mandates, when compared to her predecessors, President Habibie and President Wahid, who had a short cabinet. President Sukarnoputri's government can be considered democratic or semi-democratic because there are no serious violations in the three pillars of democratic qualifications. Her government also creates legal products with responsive characteristics when compared with the opportunity to run an authoritarian government. Among the legal products that her period created are those related to regional government and autonomy, which created some provinces such as the Kepulauan Riau and dozens of municipalities and towns. And then general elections, which, as we know, President Sukarnoputri held the first direct election of president and vice president. And then the eradication of corruption, we can see the KPK creation at her reign, and foreign relations, and then stability and defense, which are all strategic in her period's national and public necessities. That is all from me. Thank you for your attention. And if you may have any questions, please drop your questions in the comment section below. Thank you.